Vanakam, Namaste, and blessings to everyone across the globe. This is Priestess Bairavee Balasubramaniam, PhD. Today I'm going to be speaking to you about the energies in the sky for today, 19th August 2014. Now we are still basking in the glow of the Jupiter-Venus conjunction of yesterday, August 18th. And whilst many are celebrating that conjunction, I'm going to present the other side of it. Jupiter is associated with abundance, with blessings, with teachings, and with the astrological sign of Sagittarius. When it gives you something, it gives you a lot of it, which is good. Many of us look for abundance in our lives in different ways. Venus is the way in which we relate to the material world. It is the way in which we make judgments about what is good, what is bad, what is desirable, what is undesirable, what is right, what is wrong. It's not just about romance and femininity and sensuality. It really has a profound way in which it impacts our ability to judge, which, is kind of explained by its association with Libra, which is represented by the scales. Now, in excess, because if these energies were imbalanced, you don't need to worry about them anyway. You can feel it as a certain movement of grace as you embody your femininity and your spirituality through the beautiful, vulnerable yet powerful gateway of Leo. Leo is, of course, as I have explained in previous videos, associated with the creativity and joy and spontaneity of the inner child dancing on the world stage. So if that's manifested for you in that way, you don't need to worry about it. But let me talk about how else it can manifest. Jupiter, as I have said before, is associated with the sign of Sagittarius. That is a sign that can be extremely wise, a sign that can guide and can teach and can preach. But it is also a sign that when understood or when manifested in excess can become extremely judgmental. It can say, rightly or wrongly, this is what I want, everyone else is wrong or stupid. Venus can do exactly the same thing. Venus can get so comfortable with the kinds of worldviews and perceptions that it had learned, especially in the first years of its formative experiences. It can get so comfortable in what it perceives to be right and wrong that sitting in that distinction, sitting in that division is once again reproduced. So you can have that idealistic, almost zealot kind of energy that the excess of Jupiter can bring. And then you also have Venus saying, well, it makes me good or it makes me feel good, or both, to think in the way that I do. Now, I find that this manifestation of Jupiter and Venus is more likely than the happy one that I mentioned earlier. Perhaps many of us may be feeling one thing and then seeing the other manifestation of it enter our lives in some form or another. Now that is because today we also had Mercury opposed Neptune retrograde. Mercury is in the sign of Virgo. Virgo is trying to understand how to manifest its path of service in this material form. And Mercury in Virgo is doubly energetic, doubly powerful because it is one of its home signs, so to speak. So the mind, that ability to judge, that ability to analyze, perceive, and communicate is very clearly setting its boundaries, particularly with relation or in relation with attitudes towards service, attitudes towards what you consider ritual, attitudes towards what you consider the nuts and bolts of life, and also the nuts and bolts of your spiritual path. Now, Mercury is opposed Neptune retrograde. Neptune retrograde, as I have explained and experienced in the previous video, relates very, very strongly to our sense of what is our spiritual path. How do we define it? How do we experience it? How do we understand, live, and embody it? Neptune retrograde can manifest in two different ways. One, it can be a complete rejection of what your spirit is saying and a total focus upon the ego's messages, or it can be that state of just transcendental acceptance. It's like everything works, everything goes, just go with the flow. It can manifest in other ways as well, but these are the two extremes. But in retrograde, we are likely to see what our and others' paths are for what they really are. It can be a time in which the mind, your mind or someone else's mind, depending on who's playing Mercury in your life, may actually point out to you the flaws, the hypocritical areas, or just the areas which you need to become more aware of in your own path. But it can be a particularly painful opposition because Neptune is in Pisces and Neptune is associated with Pisces, because Pisces energy is present, you may actually find the imposition of Mercury and its sharp analytical force through Virgo as a very painful event. Pisces is the house of spirituality. It is also the house of surrender, seclusion, and sacrifice. It is the house that is most associated with the energies of the Christ, of Christ consciousness. Now, having said that, and that is the backdrop, I call this the time of the trials of the priestess, or simply one communing with the divine feminine, because, for reasons I explain in my article below, this energy is being channeled towards 2 points. Vesta, the energy of the priestess as a goddess asteroid of priestessing in Scorpio, and also Lilith, the energy of the dark feminine in Leo. Now, both these energies are basically anchoring the elevation and the rising of the consciousness of the divine feminine, of the spiritual vocation of priestessing or priesting, which involves recognition of the divine feminine in ways that will not only just affect individuals who take that title, but will affect the globe. What this basically means is, those of us who have come forward at this time are likely to feel a lot of criticism for the paths that we have chosen, and some of us may perceive this as a sense of wounding. Now, I have shared materials from my experience on my 3 Facebook pages: The Goddess, the Serpent, and the Sea, Building Pathways of Light; The Dark Mother's Children; and I Am Rising, the Goddess Awakens, and also on my website. So for those seeking answers to the question of how do I choose my path? How do I know it's right for me? What do I do when someone attacks me? I've written about this in those spaces. But the short answer to the last question is, even if someone tries to be a jerk and calls you, God knows what, because you decide to believe in a goddess or a dark goddess that is actually holy and healing, the response is okay, and just carry on your way. If there's healing you can do, facilitate it. If not, just keep on moving, because your job is elsewhere. This is an awakening that is not just happening to selected individuals. It is happening across the globe. And it is a very, very intense time. The choices you make now, the responses that you make to these challenges are being encoded as we speak into a near perfect grand sextile in the sky. This is also addressed in my article, which I've attached below. So this is a message which I hope will reach many, and which I hope will resonate with many at this time. Stay away from judgment. Stay away from the ego as much as you can. Just be you. And remember, at the end of the day, it was, is, and always will be just between you and the divine. Peace to everyone. Goodbye.